Hello, beautiful perception trainers people. I am so excited to have another video for you this week where we are going to talk about the difference between a limiting belief and a false belief and why it matters. Okay, so I know this might sound like, ooh, spiritual woo-woo random talk. What does it really matter if I have a limiting or a false belief? It's all the same thing, isn't it? Okay, no. This is actually something that I'm really excited to talk about because I feel like when we can really start to get like a hold, like a really strong hold on these what can be sort of esoteric concepts, we're actually going to start to find that, again, a lot of this esoteric work that seems all magical and like, I just have to get rid of my false belief and I just have to get rid of my negative belief and it's a negative, but what does all this really mean? Okay, when we can really get like an actual hold on it, it becomes very practical and it becomes something that you can actually use in your life to move yourself forward, rather than spirituality being this kind of just like magical manifesting. We say all these words, but they don't really mean anything. They don't actually lead to change, right? Because, and I mean, I think this is one of these things that's just, especially in the spiritual community, right? Like we have a lot of theories and we have a lot of ideas and we have a lot of things that we say, and if we really were like to kind of press ourselves, but what does that mean? Like practically, how does this improve my life, right? And I just think if your spiritual practices and your spiritual understanding and your spiritual whatever isn't practically improving your life, isn't making it so that you can practically be an improvement to humanity, that you can help other people improve their lives, what's the point, right? Is it really spirituality? And that's what I would kind of propose here, is that first and foremost, yeah, I think we need to, as a humanity, start to like reevaluate what our definition of spirituality is. And it shouldn't just be a bunch of esoteric principles that sound nice in a meme on Facebook, right? It's gotta have some meat to it. It's gotta have some juice to it. It's gotta have some practicality. There needs to be an element of what is this actually doing to improve your life and to improve the state of the planet, yeah? So this understanding of limiting versus false beliefs is going to be something that is going to be very practical for you and will help you to work through the things that you're going through right now that are causing you to suffer and to be in trauma. And they're going to help you to see where actual changes in your life can be made so that you can start to feel better. And that's really what we're all doing this spiritual work for, right? Like we want to feel better. And feeling better isn't going to come from ideas. Feeling better is going to come from change, right? It is. I know that a lot of spiritual teachers want to boil it all down to just like all of your pain is in your mind and you're just suffering because of your mindset. And again, that's an oversimplification, because yes, your mindset will cause you to suffer. Not just because of what you're thinking though, because your mindset causes you to behave in a certain way. And so if your mindset is out of alignment with truth, your behavior is going to be out of alignment with truth, and that's going to cause you to suffer. And so just to change your mindset, if you truly change your mindset, it's going to change how you behave. So we can't simply say just change how you think and keep your whole rest of your life the same, because if you've really changed how you think, you're not going to keep your whole life the same. Things are going to change. And that's, again, the sign of true spiritual growth, is that you become new and different and you behave differently. Okay? So let's get into this. What is a negative belief and what is a false belief? So a false belief and a limiting belief, those are our two things that we're looking at today. So again, the first thing we need to understand is that reality is both structured and elastic. Okay? There is a structure to how reality functions. It's not just all mental, whatever you want it to be. You can just do whatever you want all the time. Because if there was no structure, there could be no life. Okay? If there was no form at all, there could be no manifestation. There has to be an underlying structure in order for there to be anything. So there are rules, quote unquote, to how the universe functions. And this is exactly what religion and spirituality and government and everything that we're doing as a humanity, trying to figure out what the rules are. This is why we all have that. This is why we all still are looking so desperately for mommy and daddy or whatever to tell us what the rules are. Because we know, all of us instinctively, intuitively know, that if we can just figure out what the rules are, we can be happy. Now, we don't know why, right? And I'm going to explain to you why. Because right now, if you understand how the structure of reality works, you are then capable of creating whatever you want to create within it. Okay, so here's the other thing. Again, a lot of people don't want to believe that there's a structure to reality, that there's rules to reality, because we believe, and we're going to get into this why in a second, that if there are rules, if there is a structure, if there is a way things are, then that is inhibiting me from being able to be who I want to be, to do what I want to do, to create what I want to create. That is humanity's biggest trauma right now. Humanity is living under this trauma that nature and reality is against us, that what we want is being opposed by reality. And so we resist this idea that there's a structure at the same time as clamoring to try and figure out what the idea of the structure, because again, we believe that we have this kind of like dueling belief within us, all of us, that we're trying to figure out the rules so that we can be happy, because we know that if we can figure out how the structure works, we can create what we want to create, and that's really what's going to make us happy. We can express what we want to express. We can be who we came here to be. That's what gives us meaning. That's what gives us purpose. That's what gives us all that positive emotion, is authentic expression. So whether that be in your job, in your relationships, in your eating, it doesn't really matter. It's everything that you are, every moment of the day, your growth process through life. So not anything like stagnant or like there's a peak to it or anything like that, right? Life is meant to be this continual unfolding of learning about yourself, learning about the reality, creating, and then saying, okay, now from there, I want to build another thing. And then I want to build another thing. Everything is just a foundation for the next thing you're about to create, because that's how life works, right? Life has to be continually growing, learning, evolving, changing, expanding to be life. So we're meant to be learning about the structure of reality, creating what we want to create, and then that spurring us, yes, to want to create something else, to evolve what we have. So this, whatever we just created, is the foundation for our next desire. And that next desire, again, is going to require that we learn something new about the reality. So we learn about the reality, we create our desire, and then that becomes the foundation for our next desire. And then we learn about how the reality functions, learn something new, even more complex about the reality. We then build upon reality through our creation, yes? So it's this constant thing of understanding how the reality, or having a desire, understanding how the reality works so that we can create our desire, which that then evolves the structure of reality, which then is that now the foundation for the next desire, the next thing we want to do, create, be, express, which then causes us to have to learn something new about the reality, the structure of reality, in order to create it. And then with that information, we combine that with our desire, we create the new thing, and over and over and over again, right? So the example I like to give is the airplane, right? Humans wanted to fly. That was a desire. And it was a desire that it looked like reality was opposing, because we could not just jump off a cliff and flap our arms like all the other winged creatures that fly. And so if we had looked at that and said, okay, humans just can't fly, we would never have created the airplane. If we looked at it and said, well, look, gravity's against us, we never would have created the airplane. But in order to create the airplane, what we had to do was we had to say, okay, there are laws, and we know that flight is possible. It's a desire we have, and we want that to happen, right? Now, how can we work with reality in order to make that desire an actual thing? So rather than saying gravity's against us, we learned about gravity. We learned about aerodynamics. We learned all these things about how the reality functions. Yes? Through our desire to create the airplane, to create human flight. And doing that, we learned about the reality. We became more complex beings. We learned about aerodynamics and gravity and things that we never would have known had we not had the desire to fly. and then working with those principles, right? So working with the foundational structure of reality, we created something new. So that's the elasticity part, right? How I said that reality is both structured and elastic. It is meant to be evolved. That's the elastic part. We take the structure of what is, and we use that to create what we want, which has not been before. So we're not opposing reality to create the airplane. We created the airplane within the structure of reality. So this leads us into our conversation here. Every single one of us wants to create, do, be, and express something that has never been created, expressed, done before. That's what your uniqueness is. And again, you don't even have to think of this as like this big overarching, like, what's my purpose in life? It's literally like every single thing that you do in a day is a part of this expression of life that has never been expressed before, which is what is keeping life going, right? You are an evolution on life. You are an expansion on consciousness because you are unique. You have never been before. You're doing things that have never been done before because of the context of time and your individuality and your elastic nature within the structure, your structure within the elastic nature. You are expanding consciousness just in every single thing. But at the same time, you have some overarching unique desires of things you want to do, be, and create that are unique to you, and that could be called like your purpose or whatever you want to call it. Now, so all of us have that. And because no one has ever done what we've wanted to do before, because no one ever could, right? No one is ever going to be or has ever been exactly like you. No one can tell you exactly how you're going to figure out how to do, be, and express what you want to be. You are simply going to have desires to go out, do, be, and express what you want to express. And then you are going to, because you are part of consciousness that is learning about itself, because that is the other thing. Humanity is simply a reflection of consciousness learning about itself. We are here experiencing the reality in a physical 3D way so that it can show us what the structure actually is. We can have a physical experience of the structure. It's no longer just a mental projection of what we think the structure might be. We now have physical evidence that shows us this is how the structure works, this is not how the structure works. When I do this, I break myself. And therefore, that is not how the structure works, right? When I break myself, when I try and rebel against the structure, I break myself. When I try and jump off a cliff, I'm rebelling against the structure of gravity, I break myself. I don't break reality, I break me. That's how that works, all right? So all of us are gonna do that. We're gonna go and we're gonna say, okay, I wanna be, do, and express this thing. I'm gonna go out and try it. And because we are fundamentally limited in our awareness, that's the whole point of why we're here as a humanity, to discover the structure through our desires. We will fail at expressing our desire, at creating what we want to create the first time we do it. We're going to fail. So again, if our desire is to fly, we're going to jump off the cliff, we're going to fall to the ground. So the first thing that we can do is develop a false belief. So now the false belief says, nope, I did it right. Right? All the other winged creatures just project themselves into the air, flap their arms, and they take flight. So I have flight figured out, right? My desire is to fly. I know how it's supposed to work because I've seen a bird do it. So I'm just going to keep jumping off a cliff and flapping my arms over and over again because I know that this is the right way. And eventually reality is going to concede. That is a false belief. Okay? So a false belief is simply, I know how the reality works. I have gone out and tried to create my desire based on my understanding of how the reality works. It did not happen the way that I thought it should. It didn't work. I wasn't actually able to create what I wanted to create. It's not because I'm wrong. It's because reality just didn't give it to me. So I just need to keep doing what I'm doing over and over again. And eventually it's going to work. That's a false belief, right? You have a false idea, a false understanding of how the reality functions, and therefore you cannot create your desire. So people do this with diets, people do this with exercise, people do this with making money, in relationships. We all do this thing that we think is the right thing, right? We all have, I want to be healthy. I am very sure that if I just do this fast, or if I just do this diet, or if I just do this workout routine, It's going to get me there. And maybe for a period of time, it sort of did work for a bit. But if it didn't fundamentally and permanently give you your desire, right? So if the diet didn't make you healthy now forever, you never fell off of the diet, you were able to maintain it and sustain it. If it didn't give you a permanent result, right? It didn't make it so that now you and your partner no longer have that fight that you've always had. It didn't make it so that you stopped going into debt, or you now actually enjoy your job forever, right? Like something fundamentally shifted that made it so that that problem you had before that sparked the desire to do something different, now you're permanently in that new place. You're opposing the structure. You have a false understanding of how the reality works. And if you keep doing what you think is the right answer and it's not giving you permanent results, you know you're on a false belief, right? So we have to be able to admit to ourselves, is what I'm doing actually creating permanent, sustainable, actually changed my life forever results? Gave me my desire in a sustainable way? And if not, and I'm still trying to do it the way that I think is right, I have a false belief. That's what a false belief is, right? I think I know how I'm going to get my desire. I keep doing what I think is supposed to give me my desire. It doesn't work permanently. It's not because I'm wrong. It's because reality is wrong and it's going to give it to me at some point. That's a false belief, okay? The second thing that we can do is we want to fly, right? We have the desire to fly. We jump off a cliff, we fall to the ground, and we get traumatized. We're like, oh my God, that was so painful, right? I wanted to fly. I watched a bird fly. They jumped off a cliff. I really hurt myself when I fell off that cliff. I broke my ankle. That was incredibly traumatizing. So now, not only am I going to decide that flight isn't possible, so get rid of that. Get rid of that desire. That desire is something that hurt me, right? My desire to fly hurt me. And cliffs are scary. Heights are scary. Gravity is against me. So now I have a limiting belief, okay? That's telling me that not only can I not have what I want, my desire is dangerous. Don't pursue what I want. Try and get rid of this desire. Second thing, don't ever go near a cliff edge again. Now I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of gravity. I've decided not only can I not have what I want, but reality is now an unsafe place for me. Life is an unsafe place for me, right? I can get hurt. I can get traumatized. So now I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to cope with this fact that I still want to fly, because we're never going to get rid of a desire. That's the thing. We all have them. And whatever it is that you want to be, whatever it is that you want to create, that's innate within you. You're never going to get rid of it. So you're going to always have to have some sort of way of stimulating or numbing yourself in order to live your life not pursuing your desire. So that's the first thing about a limiting belief. It creates coping and stimulating addictions, things that we go to that help us not look at what we want, right? Because we now have this belief that it is this thing about me, right? It is my desire to fly that caused me to get hurt, and reality is against me. So I hate this desire to fly. I have to get rid of that, and reality is unsafe. So now we have a limiting belief, right? Which is, technically speaking, far more painful than a false belief, right? Because a false belief, at least you're still saying, I can have what I want, right? It's just, reality is just going to have to change itself to give me what I want. That's what a false belief is, right? But a limiting belief is saying, not only is my desire wrong and bad, and it caused me to get hurt, it's also showing me how the reality is against me. And so my desire is causing me to get hurt. And I have to try and get rid of my desire, which is something you can never get rid of, right? You're never going to get rid of what you want to be and what you want to do and what you want to create. So all of us have been traumatized in this way. All of us have been children who expressed something and we got rejected and we got told, you can't be like that, you can't do that, that's not okay. And then we developed a limiting belief that, okay, this part of myself is bad. It gets me cut off from love. It gets me hurt. It gets me traumatized. I have to stop being this way. I have to get rid of this part of myself. And you're never going to be able to get rid of that part of yourself. So now you're developing coping mechanisms, stimulating and numbing to try and shut down that desire, and you're afraid of the reality itself. So from there, yes, like I say, now we have all this trauma. And we live with these false beliefs and we live with these limiting beliefs, and they cause all of our self-sabotaging behaviors, and they cause all of our fear of the reality. They cause us to not be able to learn. They cause us to look for the perfect right answer from government or religion or from education or whatever. We're looking for the structure, but we're not looking to reality for the structure, because we think the reality is against us. We're trying to conquer nature. We're trying to get above the reality so that we think that will give us what we want, versus working with reality. We all have this idea that it is the reality that's not giving us what we want. Okay? So what we need to start to do, okay, is understand, number one, you have trauma around your desires, around who and what you want to be, because we all do. We've all been told that who and what we are is wrong and bad. All of us have that. So that's the first thing. We all have a limiting belief about ourselves, that who and what we are is going to get us hurt, that the reality is against it, humanity is against it, it's going to get us hurt, and we have to get rid of that somehow. And so therefore we've developed coping mechanisms, stimulating and numbing, to try and suppress these parts of ourselves. All right? So the first step is to say, okay, where am I coping? Where am I stimulating? Where am I numbing? And rather than making myself wrong for doing those things, I'm going to fully and completely accept myself in that. Why? Because as you fully and completely accept yourself in your stimulating and numbing behaviors, you're going to start to reveal to yourself what it is you actually want. Okay? I call stimulating and numbing behaviors displaced desires. We're trying to get love. We're trying to get approval. We're trying to express something in a way that we think is going to help us avoid the pain and the suffering of the true expression we want to do. So when we start to see that our coping mechanisms, our stimulating and numbing behaviors are not bad, it's how we're coping with the trauma of having a desire we don't know how to get met, that also we believe is going to cause us pain, that we're having these things. So when we start to make these things okay, we give ourselves permission to do them, and we ask ourselves, okay, what am I running from? What am I stimulating? What am I numbing? What am I not wanting to see here? What am I not wanting to feel? What am I not wanting to own? What am I not wanting to express? That is how we start to work through this. Okay, so that's the first thing. You're going to start to realize, yeah, no, I want to be this person my parents told me I shouldn't. I want to be this person that I was bullied for being. I want to create this thing that I think I can't have because every time I've tried to create it, it didn't work. Then the second thing is to say, reality isn't wrong. So if I'm still trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, it's not because reality is holding something from me. It's because I need to evolve my understanding of the reality. I'm not going to be able to take flight just from jumping off a cliff. This diet isn't going to eventually work. This trying to get myself to do this job that I hate isn't going to eventually make me rich. This trying to be who I think I need to be in my relationship so this person will love me isn't going to eventually work. If it's not working, it's not going to work. So, but that doesn't mean that it's 100% wrong. It just means there's seeds of the reality in there that need to be evolved. So then we start to look at our traumas, right? All the things that we think reality is against me. This thing is against me. This pain is against me. And we start to say, okay, what if reality is just more complex than I think that it is? What if there's just something I need to learn about the reality that I'm not even aware that I don't know at this point? And that's what's going to take me to being able to express my desire. And in that, we start to sit with, okay, I have this desire, or I have these behaviors, right, that I don't even know what my desires are. And I don't know why I feel the way that I do. And I don't know what I'm even running from. It doesn't matter. If you know what your desire is, you don't know what your desire is, sit with the fact that you don't know. This is, again, a huge key. If you can sit with the uncomfortable emotion of not knowing, of the anxiety, the terror, the dread, whatever comes up for you, when you just sit with not doing stuff, not trying to fix yourself, not trying to do all these things, but just being in the present moment. If you can do that, you're going to start to become aware of things you have not been aware of before. You will start to reveal to yourself how the reality works. Your answers will start to come to you. And this is not magic. It's because they're stored in the trauma, inherent within the trauma, right? So inherent within jumping off the cliff and falling to the ground was the information about gravity. That's how we learned that gravity existed, through jumping off a cliff and falling to the ground. So within the trauma, within your negative emotion, within everything that you've been through, where you tried to express yourself, you tried to create yourself, you tried to do something, and it didn't go how you thought it would. You got abandoned, you got rejected, you got all this pain. Inside those experiences is the information about the reality you need in order to create what you want to create. It's not somewhere else. It's not once you've healed the trauma. It's in the trauma. So we start to sit with the not knowing. We start to sit with the uncomfortable emotions. We sit with all this stuff. And we, instead of making it all wrong, so that's the thing. Instead of sitting and saying like, just everything that happened to me was wrong. Everything that happened to me was bad. It shouldn't have happened that way. I shouldn't feel how I feel. I shouldn't feel how I feel. I shouldn't think how I think. We start to just make everything right. I don't understand it, but I know that it's right. I don't understand it, but I know that it's right. I don't understand it, but I know that it's right. I have coping mechanisms. I don't understand why I'm doing that, but I'm doing it for a good reason. You just start to assume that the reality is for you and that you are for you, right? Start to see where you're at war with reality, where you're at war with yourself, and start to end that war. Just start to say, okay, no, this is okay. This is okay. This is okay. What is the information in this? What is the information in this? What is this trying to show me? It's not trying to show me that I can't have what I want. It's trying to show me that creating what I want is going to be more complex than I thought, right? So all of your trauma, every time you've gone and you've tried to do something and it didn't work, and you were rejected, and you were hurt, and you were blamed, and you were shamed, and all that stuff, that is not a sign that you can't have what you want. And you need to be a masterful person and say, okay, that wasn't wrong. That's showing me something about the reality I need to know. It wasn't reality against me. It was a curriculum. So what is the information in there? What do I need to learn? What do I need to see that I'm not seeing? What do I need to know that I'm not knowing? And the way that we do that is by being with the emotions that we're facing right now, with the trauma that we're in, with the pain that we're in. And as we start to integrate that stuff, that's what integration is. You take the information that right now it's all in you, but it's not inside. You don't understand it. You can't use it yet. You sit with it, and sit with it until it reveals to you the next step, the next step, the next step. And then you start to realize you can create what you want. Just it's going to be in a totally different way than you thought. The reality was not against you. So again, if your mindset becomes, how do I learn about the structure? Because it's through learning about the structure that I will become free to create what I want to create, versus trying to get rid of the structure or rebel from the structure. So how can I learn about the structure? How is the structure helping me? How is whatever I'm going through right now helping me? And in that, you will start to have your awareness expanded. Okay? So limiting belief, I can't have what I want and reality is against me. False belief, I can't have what I want and I know how I'm going to get it and reality is just at some point going to give it to me. No. If you're not being able to create what you want in a permanent way that's continuing to evolve you, there's something about reality you need to understand. It is inherent within your pain and in your trauma. Sit with your pain and your trauma and start to say, okay, I don't know. What's the answer? I don't know. Sit and be okay with not knowing, and it will start to reveal itself to you through your traumas, through what happened to you. Make what happened to you okay. Make how you feel about it okay. Start to see what information comes if you stop fighting against it. All right? So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video, probably next week, because I'm all addicted to doing videos again. All right?